So there's a couple of things I wanted to point out with respect to the qualtrics questionnaire that we can set up. I want to show you a tool and also the place where we can define whether personalized information is being saved, which we want to switch off in order to make the questionnaire anonymous, right? So I've loaded up this demo questionnaire that we started building in a previous session. Just contains a couple of questions here. And one of the things I wanted to show you is there's actually a Tools tab here where you can do a couple of things. So you can generate test responses. So in a previous go, I actually published a questionnaire and then ran through it myself, which is a useful thing to do to see whether the flow of the question actually works for you, right? So you can either work through this in the preview or in the published version. Both of them are fine. But if you're just interested in generating sort of a sample data set that you can then export and try and run through your analysis stream, you can actually generate test responses here. So, and we could maybe even do 15, right? And you can start the test. And it will do this and save out the test results in there. And it will try and explore a bunch of stuff here. So we can look back at the data and analysis tab in a second. Right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is we wanted to make sure that our data are anonymized. So we don't collect information about the IP address or any other identifying information, because that's part of the ethics approval process. We want to make sure that we don't keep information about people that could identify them, because that would require sort of an extra set of ethical considerations for which we don't really have time in this setup at the moment. So to get there, so you can see there's a bunch of general options here where you can set maybe the look and feel, the color schemes and so on. But there's survey options here, and amongst them there's quite a few things that you can set up. So the one that we're interested in is actually got to do with security, I think, right? Yeah, so it's in the security tab, and so there's a toggle at the bottom that allows you to anonymize the responses, right? So it doesn't record the IP address, location data, and any contact information. So in some circumstances that's bad, right? Because you might want to be able to get in touch with the respondents to follow them up. But in our case, we definitely want to switch the anonymized responses on. All right, and maybe we can just try that out again. If we go back to the survey here and add another few test responses, maybe do 10 of them and see whether they get added actually to the end of our data set or not. And we can close. Right. Let's go over to the data analysis tab. Yeah, so it looks like this is still processing. So I'm going to pause the recording here and then I will come back to it in a little while. So I'm back in the data tab here now, and you can see the responses have all come in. So they're labeled at 5:18 a.m. So obviously that's the wrong time zone. You can see there's quite a few of the responses here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to export that data set to a CSV file. So one of the options down here, which I wanted to point out to you, is if you want to, rather than having the response text for particular questions, the actual numeric values, so was it answer 1, 2, 3, or 4 in a multiple choice setting, you can actually decide on that here. So that might be one of the options that we can explore. There's also some other options to do with how the data are being downloaded. But so in this particular case, this might be something that will save us potentially a step of extra analysis or recoding the data at some point. So that's useful to keep in mind. But for now, I just wanted to check whether the anonymization step actually worked. So I'm going to download that data set. It's going to take a second. And then it actually puts me there in my download directory, and you can see that it's a survey test. And let's see whether the IP address, and yeah, it's sort of anonymous. So it's actually removed that information from before. So that's really great. Okay, excellent. All right, so watch out for the next installment of these, where we're going to look at some more things to do with Qualtrics as we go along. See you.